A fan of Bharat Empire left a message saying that since China is stronger than India, why not occupy all the disputed territories and maintain a standoff with India on the border? Yes, this is a good question. In fact, after the outbreak of the Sino-Indian War in 1962, China won an overwhelming victory. At that time, many generals advocated continuing to attack India and conquering the entire northeast region of India, or at least occupying all the disputed territories. But the Chinese government at that time lacked diplomatic experience. Mao Zedong was a more emotional than rational person. He overestimated the possibility of direct intervention by the Soviet Union and the United States to support India. Because China had just emerged from a 3-year famine at that time, domestic contradictions were very sharp. Mao was considering launching the Cultural Revolution to attack political opponents. He was unwilling to expand the war. This was the fundamental reason why India escaped the disaster. To this day, the officers who participated in the war are complaining about the decision to withdraw. I don't want to discuss the political struggle of the Chinese Communist Party too much in my video to avoid being harassed by the national security. In 1987, when India established Arunachal Pradesh in the disputed area, the Chinese army was also prepared to punish India on the grounds of border conflict. But at that time, China's border conflict with Vietnam on the Eastern Front had not yet ended, and the Communist Party of China happened to be in a fierce intra-party political struggle. Deng Xiaoping, who held military power, did not implement a strike against India for many reasons. After Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi visited China, the two sides agreed to resolve the border issue through negotiations. In fact, after the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, it has been in various wars or intra-party political struggles and has never had a truly stable construction environment. Therefore, in the 1990s, after quelling the 1989 student movement, China ushered in a rare stable economic construction environment. It was also from 1990 to 2010 that China developed from a backward agricultural country to the world's first industrial power and the second largest economy in a short period of 20 years. By 2014, China's total economic output, according to the Purchasing Power Parity Standard, had surpassed the United States and ranked first in the world. Since Trump launched the trade war and technology war in 2018, China has been in a high-intensity confrontation with the United States and has no time to deal with disputes with India. So China has always wanted to fight India, but missed it for various reasons. For example, after the conflict between China and India in the Kalwan Valley in 2020, China's determination to fight against India was very strong. If the Indian army continues to intensify the confrontation, China will definitely punish India with war. But Modi is a paper tiger, and the Indian army's poor performance in the conflict has not improved compared to 1962. The Chinese army not only defended the border, but also built a large number of permanent fortifications. However, due to the weakness and incompetence of the Indian army exposed in the confrontation, China's attitude towards India has also changed dramatically. The Chinese army has strong confidence in fighting against India and can ensure that it does not need to mobilize the whole country and can win the battle against India by relying solely on the Western Theater Command. Therefore, the Chinese government has adopted a cold treatment approach to India. To put it simply, the Chinese government does not want to resolve the border territorial dispute at present and will leave the dispute to be dealt with at the right time. But China's bottom line is that the actual control line between the two sides cannot be changed at present, and China will not make any concessions to India. If the Indian army provokes, China will definitely fight back in equal or even double the amount. If the conflict turns into a war, China will go to war in an all-out way, defeat and dismember India, and completely resolve historical issues. Yes, at the critical moment of the current Sino-US conflict, China's first interest is to win the economic and technological war against the United States. And its second interest is to ensure that Taiwan does not become independent, followed by maintaining the stability of the situation in the South China Sea and maintaining cooperative relations with ASEAN. The conflict with India is not a core interest in China, and it will be delayed as much as possible. However, if India intensifies the conflict, causing the border confrontation to turn into a war and disrupting China's strategic deployment, China will definitely dismember India. Allow the northeastern states of India to become independent and take over strategic locations such as Kashmir. Some Bharat netizens boasted that India is also a nuclear power and China dare not fight a full-scale war with India. They are overthinking. Indians bragging may be effective in scaring small countries. But in front of a real nuclear power, India's nuclear weapons are not enough to form actual combat capabilities in terms of equivalent, projection means, or stability. If used rashly, it will not only fail to break through China's missile defense system, but will also be retaliated tenfold by China, and may even be wiped off the map by China. In terms of the current military equipment level of China and India, the gap between the two countries is more than 30 years. The Chinese army has a large number of fifth-generation fighters, advanced transport aircraft, bombers, electronic warfare aircraft, medium and long-range ballistic missiles, helicopters, tanks, drones, robot dogs, etc. China's industrial production capacity is dozens of times that of India. The two countries are not opponents of the same level at all. Moreover, China has a geographical advantage, and it is more convenient to strike India from high to low. It is difficult for the Indian army to break into China. The weapon system purchased by the Indian army from abroad is patchwork and has extremely poor reliability. It is okay to use it to bully Muslims in the country. When facing the Chinese army on the battlefield, it is basically collapsed. In the Kalwan Valley conflict, India's carefully selected mountain combat troops were beaten by the Chinese border guards in cold weapon combat. During the escape, due to the lack of night vision equipment, a large number of them fell into the river and drowned. What's more shameful is that they were captured by the Chinese army in large numbers, leaving a lot of video and photo evidence. Therefore, the Modi government is very aware of its own strength and dares not confront China according to the requirements of the United States. The Modi government overestimated its position in the Western world and sent people to Canada to assassinate the Sikh leader, causing India to be abandoned by the US government and become the target of short selling on Wall Street. Modi's friend Adani was also investigated and prosecuted by the US government, and his wealth shrank significantly. So Bharat netizens don't need to be complacent. The Chinese have never regarded India as an equal opponent. India can only fight a border war with Pakistan at most, and it can't take advantage. China will continue to strengthen diplomatic relations with Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Provide Pakistan with advanced equipment such as J-35 and build a Chinese-style weapons belt around India so that India can feel the pressure from China. The Chinese government will continue to ban the export of industrial technology to India, prohibit India from purchasing high-tech products and advanced industrial equipment, and block India's industrialization process. At the same time, if necessary, China will also support Muslims, Sikhs, and northeastern states in India to resist the oppression of Hindus. If a war breaks out between China and India again, China will ensure that this is the last time India appears as a whole in world history and directly dismember India into more than 4 political entities. In fact, after Modi messed up his relationship with the United States, he sent his servant Sujay Shankar to meet with Wang Yi, hoping to strengthen the so-called Sino-Indian friendship, but was coldly received by the Chinese government. There can be no more friendship between China and India. Non-aggression is the upper limit of diplomatic relations between the two sides, and friendship is absolutely impossible. After China has dealt with the conflict with the United States, it will naturally slowly deal with the Bharat Empire. Indians may not know that the Chinese government can compromise and negotiate with the United States, Russia, Japan, and even the Philippines and Vietnam, but not with India. Because the vast majority of Chinese who pay attention to politics are very contemptuous of India. There is a popular saying in China, India is a sleeping maggot, and when it wakes up, the whole world will be disgusted. If the Modi government wakes up in time and sincerely repents to China, there may be a glimmer of hope. Otherwise, if China wins the competition with the United States or reaches a compromise with the US government, his barred empire will surely usher in a devastating blow from China.